I think that we should give you a tour. I'm so ready, like let's start smashing stuff.
So we've been doing some investigation and discovery.
Good morning. Today is our first day of working on the van and I could not be more excited about it. It's a Saturday morning and I woke up just like excited, like I feel like it's Christmas morning. We're gonna eat some breakfast and then get our stuff packed up to take the van and drive it to my parents' backyard where we're gonna be working on it for the foreseeable future. We haven't left the house this early in the day in a long time. Yeah, what the heck? There's a place in my mind where I want to be. We got the van to my parents' house. Now it's really time to start on this project. Today is going to be primarily demolition. But first, I think that we should give you a tour of what our van already looks like. We've kind of hinted at it in previous videos, but this is not a completely empty cargo van. So let's tell you the story about that.
So yeah, this is our van. It's all done, ready for camping.
No way!
No, we bought this vehicle from somebody who was partway through converting it. It was taking too long, they didn't have the money to keep going. So we bought a vehicle that's partially converted. Let me show you what I mean. The basics are here. We've got walls, we've got a ceiling, and there's some stuff's kind of roughed in.
There's floors.
There's floors.
Two different kinds of floors.
A lot of this is gonna change, either because it just isn't done or because it's not really the layout we want. Here on this side, we've got a bed that's just fixed in place. And the seller had kind of a plan to put a shower there, but hasn't really built much, and plans to, I guess, put a kitchen area here. Not sure if that's a counter or a bench, but whatever. So the moral of the story is there's some good bones here for us to work with. We're pretty fortunate that there's already studs in the walls, there's already insulation, so that ticks off a lot of stuff that would have been on our list. However, there is a little bit of demolition to do because we don't want a twin bed taking up half the space. We don't want a super low kitchen counter for some reason, or an indoor shower. So there's just some stuff that we need to rip out before we can really get started on the build. But overall, I'm really glad that we found this. I feel like it's kind of a diamond in the rough because there's a lot of these sort of difficult first steps already done for us. This van conversion comes complete with the world's hardest mattress. It legitimately has a Guinness World Record for that. Oh, if you tried to sleep on that, you couldn't.
I don't even want to touch it.
It is a little gross. It seriously is so hard. You know how they'll like drop a bowling ball or something?
We'll like stand on it, there probably won't even be a dent.
Like it's just really firm.
Yeah. Bye.
As you may have noticed in some of the drone shots, there are solar panels on the roof, so that's a huge plus. That being said, we have a fairly primitive electrical setup. In here we've just got a really basic 12-volt battery that kind of just using for testing. The wires from the solar come through to this monitor panel. That's good to have. Obviously we need that. And then it just into the battery here. A few of these components are definitely reusable, aren't you?
I'm so ready, like let's start smashing stuff. I'm just gonna grab this and rip it off.
No, not like that. Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. Welcome to our van.
Feel like I'm at the top of my game, looking down at the rafters. I had to sun these boys, can't leave them bastards. A lot of dudes, just some undercover actress. I don't fall for it, I'm privy to all your tactics. Yeah, so try again, this time take a vitamin. Yeah, invite them in, welcome to the lion's den. And I'm Mufasa, big boss in charge of. Coming in like a bull, you see me raising the stock up, yeah.
You notice the location change. We actually drove the van from my parents' house up to my parents' restaurant, which is also currently somewhat under construction, though it's almost done. Anyway, the drill was here, my parents were here, so we're just working on the side of the street now, which is fine.
We got sick of screwing stuff by hand.
Yeah, exactly. So, but progress is happening.
I'm taking me and my lady mating. She look me in the eyes and tell me how much she loving on my confidence.
So obviously when we bought this vehicle, we didn't know what was going to be behind the walls and the ceiling. We were hoping for good insulation, so we've been doing some investigation and discovery of what the bones of this vehicle actually are. The good news is, I think the insulation that the previous owner did is going to be good enough for our purposes. It's kind of some basically styrofoam, and he's filled in the gaps there with expandable foam. I think that's going to be good enough for our purposes. Do you have anything to say?
You guys probably didn't know I was such a handyman, but look at me go.
Doing great.
I'm really curious to know what is behind this. Like what kind of studs there are, like how what is this even screwed into, you know? I think this is one big piece, or is it joined here?
It's joined there.
Okay, that's good.
So just that back third or whatever.
Like at what point is it gonna fall down on me?
At any time.
Now, you might be wondering, Katie, why are you taking insulation out of the walls? I thought the reason why you liked this van is because it was already insulated. Well, that was a draw for us. However, we had all kinds of little surprises once we started taking the walls off and seeing what the seller has done behind them. This is like fine insulation. I think it'll be okay. It's not the best in terms of actually keeping the vehicle warm when you want it warm and cool when you want it cool. This stuff is probably familiar to you. This is like regular, like house, like fiberglass insulation. And the problem with this in vans is that you really need to use a vapor barrier with this kind of insulation. It's not good for it to get wet. If it gets wet, it can get moldy and just gross. And the person who sold us this van had shoved this all through all of these spaces here, and there's obviously no vapor barrier. So I'm taking it out because I think it's going to be a lot better for us to do spray foam insulation into all these pockets. We'll leave these panels because we think that's fine. And what we might end up doing is actually, because there will be some space between our studs and the wall, we might put in another layer of insulation as well, just to really make it reliable. But yes, unfortunately, I did have to take this all out because I just don't trust it in a van without a vapor barrier, and I don't want moldy walls in the van. So anyway, call me extra, but I think it's important to do this.
And just like that, I'm the only thing left in the camper van.
So it might look like not a lot has been done here, but this is definitely a full day's worth of work. And even though it might seem like we're moving backwards, I definitely feel like we're going forwards because we want to do a whole different layout. Like we really wanted to bring it down to the studs and just do it our own way. So I'm very happy with that. I think that compared to having started from total scratch with an empty cargo van, I think we're further ahead than we would have been, you know, by the end of day one. So it's day 2, I guess, of our van build, and this morning my dad's brought out all kinds of retro trucking accessories like a DC powered fridge, an inverter, a space heater. So we're gonna see how much of it works so we know how much of it we can actually incorporate into our van, potentially. It's a bit of a rainy morning today, but that's all right, we can make it work. That's what a baseball cap is for, to keep the rain off your glasses.
That would be better.
Don't fall.
You might want to go the other way. That's what it would be like there.
Yeah. And that's coming out that's the narrower one.
Yeah.
Or sorry, the wider opening.
That looks really wide to me.
Yeah, it does.
It's gonna be that. So that's gonna give you like 46 in the inside.
Okay, that concludes our first weekend of the van build. Because we don't actually have any supplies purchased yet or anything like that, this weekend was mostly about taking out what the previous owner had done, getting it back to basics, and then making sure that we had a solid plan for how we're gonna move forward. So next weekend is really gonna be when we dive in 100% and start making some progress forward. I feel like this weekend has been a little bit of like backtracking, but it's all for the best because we really did discover that the previous owner, the conversion job he was doing was not exactly up to our standards. So we're gonna do it right, and we'll really start in earnest next week. How do you feel about our progress this weekend?
It's exciting to get started.
Yeah, it is.
Now it feels like our van now that we're,
Yeah.
well, we ripped out a lot of stuff.
No kidding. Yeah, but it's exciting, and I feel like every time we work on it moving forward, we'll just see those little improvements that like bring us towards actually having a camper van and not just an empty cargo van. All right, so I think we'll leave it there. We're gonna head home, and we'll see you next weekend. Bye, man.
How does it feel to have a big hole inside of your vehicle?
Scary. Also, I feel like I look like a peanut right now. This is the biggest purchase I've ever made in my life aside from a house. And we've just cut a hole in the side.